Hi, I'm Jim. Welcome to the Unbound Performance Podcast, where we explore the world of sports and performance mindset training.
And I'm Caroline. Each week we talk about the strategies, habits, and mental framework that help us to excel. Let's get into today's episode. Anyway.
All right. Referring again to an article from The Athletic and their new peak section of articles on leadership and performance.
I love these, by the way, because I think these are good, like, hot topic type conversations.
I agree. Like, they're really good.
Yeah.
I've read.
I mean, us doing like an article type conversation, I think is good.
I also agree.
I don't know, I like it.
Yeah. They're current, for sure.
Right.
But this was an article entitled "The Science is Clear. Deep breathing can be a game changer for anyone. Elite athletes agree." And it's written by Rustin Dodd, who actually Harvey Martin, who is cited in this. He's specifically a breathing coach, and he's written a couple of books, has a podcast.
He's ex-baseball.
Yes. And he did work for the San Francisco Giants. Not sure if he still does, but
I think it's baseball and NHL are his it
looks that
sports
way
right now.
The whole point of this, they start out talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and several of their players, in a room with their secondary coach doing the deep breathing thing, and one of the players talked about anybody should do this. It can help everyone.
Not just pro athletes. Everyone.
Yep. And I know I sent a link to an article to a couple people that I knew subscribed. The breath thing it seems so foreign and strange. I remember I was in college. I was in an education course, and the woman who taught the class I really did not like. I'm sure she didn't like me much either. But she had a class one day where we were supposed to lay on the floor. She turned the lights off. We're supposed to do meditate on a breath. I thought it was so stupid.
I'm getting out of here.
I fell asleep. They had to wake me up like the class was over, and then I thought I was so funny.
Yeah.
And
now you're should have paid more attention to that.
Well,
one.
talk about if I'd have tapped into that earlier. Wow.
Yeah.
That'd have been helpful. So I was guilty of that kind of give me a break. Just thought it was weird. And
I think people get so hung up on our breath is such a natural thing that we don't have to think about. It's like saying sit and focus on your heartbeat. People are like, what? But the physical response of your body when you do focus on your breath is what we're trying to that's the whole point, is to be able to put focus on something that is typically just we have no idea we're even doing it. It just happens. We do it from the moment we are born till the day we die, and it a lot of people is never ever considered unless you're congested with a cold.
Yeah, and that's there are a number of angles to come at this. One is strictly a health approach where you want to not breathe through your mouth. It needs to be nasal breathing.
Always.
And there have been a number of books. James Nestor's famous one, Breathe.
I hate mouth breathing. It's not natural for me, even at my most fatigued, to breathe.
You're
from
lucky
my mouth.
because many people it is.
I
had to rewire
I'll do it
myself.
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it comes if I'm really struggling, but I do not like mouth breathing.
Yeah, I think, and it's fine if you're exerting yourself. You're running sprints or whatever. But throughout the day, your normal breathing needs to be.
That baffles me that people breathe normally out of their mouth.
It's a lot of people. It's very significant.
Sitting there working percentage.
Yep.
Horrible idea for me.
No judgment. This is judgment-free zone. But I would. Well, there was a photographer in the 1800s who he had a lot of health issues, and he moved out west and was studying the Native American populations out there, and they all breathe through their nose, and they didn't have their skeletal structures were different. Their dental, their teeth were all much straighter, and didn't have any of the respiratory issues and illnesses that were so frequent. But your mouth doesn't have any of the filter properties that your nose does, and so just from that basic a level when it comes to breathing,
what's going in and out of your body aside from just the air itself.
Yep. Yeah. And so he wrote a book on what he discovered, and this was well over 100 years ago. Fast forward, I mean, when we are talking about, performance or using our breath as a way to calm ourselves, whether it's just everyday stresses or, during whatever game or some kind of event, or the time leading up to it, being aware of the power of using your breath to calm things down. And it's just, I don't know. I know, I was talking with a friend of mine, Russell Thomas, yesterday, and he was talking about this book, Who Am I? And he said it's one of the best books he's ever read, but it talks about 16 like core motivations that people have. And he said like you and I, we share one of them for sure, and it's curiosity. And he said everybody like in his business team, they all have the same, like they're all curious, like, and
yeah, it's required to be successful that way.
Big deal. Yeah. And so I know for me, I was just always like, if it could help me be better, help my teams be better, I was
read it, do it, try it,
tracking it down. Yep. And so I could never quite figure out like why people wouldn't do that. So when it comes to this, like eventually I got around to, wow, this breath thing is hugely important. And so I started really, this several years now for me. Still too late. Wish I'd have done it sooner. But trying to make sure like I breathe through my nose when I'm sleeping. Never mind throughout the day, making sure that the vast majority of my breaths are through my nose.
You ever tried mouth taping? Or ever?
I did not. I know that is a thing. Like that's even like Harvey Martin, who is referenced in this article. He still does that. Making sure his tongue is, the roof of his mouth.
That was my biggest thing why I started doing it was I tend to, like, I don't really grind my teeth, but I just clench, and I'm pretty sure I do it all night long. And the mouth tape has let me be able to, like, because I don't like to breathe with my mouth open. Mm-hmm. So I think subconsciously I'm trying to keep my mouth closed. And the tape has been able to allow me to keep my mouth closed without just, like, doing this and having to get, 3 crowns every year because I'm cracking my teeth. Like, that was... And according to my Oura Ring, I got more restful sleep. It wasn't like the first night, but after weeks of doing it, my sleep definitely was improved, which is interesting.
That's I know in James Nestor's book, he definitely used that to help him kind of do it regularly. I was able to do that. I would just kind of tell myself before I went to sleep that I was going to keep my mouth closed, but that's weird. Like I could tell myself when I was going to wake up too. Like I would say, all right, I'm going to wake up at 6 and go to sleep, and then I'll wake up at 6.
Your body just knows exactly what time it is.
I don't really know why.
It's a lot of behind the scenes action going on there for your brain.
Always able to do that. The only time it wouldn't work is if I went to bed like really late.
Yeah. If you stay on your schedule.
Yeah. So if I went to bed at 2 and said, wake up at 5:30, I wouldn't trust that, and I would set an alarm. But normal, like, I never had to set an alarm. So I don't know. I don't know why that. I mean,
I know people, like one of my coworkers, when we're on our trips, even in California, which is we're 3 hours different time zone, he just keeps his curtains open, and when the sun comes up, he wakes up, and I'm like, are you, like, I would never. Now, he probably doesn't take as long to get ready in the morning as I do, but regardless, I just wouldn't trust that would be
right
the cue for me.
So yeah, the breath thing from a health standpoint should definitely be thoroughly investigated. But then from a performance standpoint, which is much more the point of this article, and Harvey Martin, he was a pitcher who was struggling, with anxiety, nerves, inability to calm down so he could execute well. And he had kind of heard about meditating and breath work, but he returned to it like kind of last straw, I need help. Mm-hmm.
Pure desperation.
Yes. And that's typically when someone's willing to try some of these things is they've tried everything else and it doesn't work. And when athletes are younger and they can get by in terms of being successful by relying on physical ability alone, they really aren't interested in any of this stuff. And the problem is, like, at some point it's going to get mean, and you're going to look around and realize everyone in this room is as talented as I am or more. Yep. So, and
what am I going to do to get?
Yes. And that's when people are much more open-minded in terms of looking for some way to give themselves a boost, or, their level of physical ability now isn't enough.
Right.
And, they're kind of filled with doubt and fear of failure. And how do I get a hold of all of this? And so then using your breath to become more aware of your thoughts so that you can kind of marshal them and produce more effective thought patterns that's a real thing. And all of these elite athletes do it. For me, I have no idea why as much information that's out there now, why you wouldn't.
And like study, not just like information like, oh, I'm doing it and then look, I'm LeBron James, but like actual studies done on this stuff.
Yep.
There's on the algorithm for my Instagram is all this like regulated nervous system and a lot of talk about just sort of this fast-paced world that we live in, where it's just like go, get in 15 things done in 1 hour, and then the next hour start another 15 things, and just like constant like the inability to like rest or not be doing something that you would categorize as productive. Like that's kind of where I fall, is like I have a hard time not doing something if I'm like, oh well, I could be doing something that's checking something off the list.
Right.
And I think when we're in that headspace, or at least me, you tend to like grip the steering wheel really hard. And when you're typing an email for work, you're holding your breath, and you're like you're in this like state of just like being tense, I guess. I think that also leads to this like holding your breath, irregular breath, probably therefore irregular heartbeat and things, and blood sugar, like so many different things about like, 'cause everyone's so focused on like this holistic health and stuff, which I'm very much in favor of. But it's not just the foods you eat and the exercise that you do. It is like how you use your body, what you expect of your body, what you expect of your mind, like to be able to, if you're going to function in this like high pressure, high paced world, we have to have mechanisms on the other end to try to balance it out, or else we're going to end up in this like ultra high stressed state that yields zero performance.
We talk a lot about the impact that the mental has on the physical, but the physical, it cuts both ways. Yes. It has huge impact on the mental. And so that kind of repeated scenario where every day is this tense, high pressure, fast paced, and you don't ever take time to like settle.
Yep.
And don't even know how to go about it.
Yep.
That's not good. So then it's not just like in the morning I meditate and I think about my breath. Like throughout the day, you can use these, a couple of like slow, deep, low and slow. That's what I think Harvey Martin talked about that. Use that as an example in terms of
low belly.
Yeah, you want to feel rather than like if you breathe and you feel your ribs expand, you're doing it right. So I know one of the Lane Johnson, the offensive lineman, mentioned in the article, and he definitely explored all this stuff for like anxiety and mental health reasons as well as performance. And I think he was studying the Wim Hof. Mm-hmm. That's that deep breath, very intentional, big pauses. And also he studied that Tumo meditation, that's the one that's mentioned or shown in Herbert Benson's relaxation response stuff, and that video where he shows these monks who are able to increase their body temperature. Like that's the Tumo specifically, like you can do that. But that's a different kind of breathing, meditating than kind of what we're typically talking about. Yep. But that point is just, there are so many different approaches to this that you can find one that
works for you.
I typically, like I just do I sit and I'm aware of my breath.
Yeah,
and
that's the same.
That's where I start.
Yeah, every now and then I'll do like 4-7-8 or the box breathing or something like that. But especially when it's just like a break throughout the day, just sitting for 30 seconds and just like this, and just like, I don't even close my eyes at the time. I just sit there or just, kind of blank gaze kind of look. Mm-hmm. We do a work event when I go to California. We have a woman come in and do like in between the big sessions where our team is presenting for like 2 hours, 3 hours straight. We'll have a 15-minute break where someone comes in and does like a flexibility class for 15 minutes, and there's a breathwork one. And she talks about the concept as a whole, and then at the end she goes through a breathing 4-7-8 breathing session, which is what I use to fall asleep at night. And I usually try to participate in everything that all of our guests are participating in, but I have to go up and present after that. And she maybe counts it out for a minute. But if I sit there and do that for a minute, like I have a hard time like clicking back in to go start the presentation. And I'm sure the guests do too, having to listen to the things I'm talking about. But I think there's a time and place for certain types of breath work. But again, to say like, okay, I think I'm going to start doing some breath work, and like, okay, 9 times today I'm going to stop and I'm going to box breathe for 3 minutes or whatever. Like, probably a lofty goal to set right away. But if you just can simply say, I'm going to stop twice today because that's way more than you did yesterday, and I'm going to sit for 30 seconds and or for 10 deep breaths and just pay attention to them, that's what gets you on the road of like rolling into that, making that more of a habit than just like the big breath holding or like big huffing and you're frustrated. Like intentional breath is the response.
Yeah, I mean, to quote Jane's story and how she talked about it, return to my breath pretty regularly throughout the day, and it's just 1 or 2 breaths, but it'll be a slow, deep breath through my nose, breathe out your mouth. It's fine. But there is a real physiological response that occurs. And like Jim Lair and Jeffrey Migdow, this is, I don't know, 20 years ago, they wrote a book, Breathe In, Breathe Out, and they called the breath the secret weapon for high performance. And
I mean, it's literally like our lifeline. Right, like
that was good.
The whole return. I mean, return to breath. Like I think we take it for granted that it happens, period, and keeps us alive. But I think like it's not personally. This is not some study or something, but like personally, it's not just the effects that breathing has on my performance or on my day or on my mood. Like it's remembering the little things that my body does, like the appreciation that my body does and is able to do without me thinking about it. It's like a little moment of gratitude at the same time. It's not just like, okay, take some deep breaths. I'm strung out. I need to refocus. Like it's breath work and it's gratitude lumped together in a little basket. And that's a nice little break from the day for 30 seconds.
Breath work and gratitude. That's a pretty lethal combo right there for real. But that is like the breath is one of those things. We have a lot of things our body does that we're not conscious of. The breath is one of those that cuts both. Like you can breathe all day long and not ever think about it, or you can tap into it from an awareness standpoint. And I would beg anyone listening to explore this thoroughly, because it's just huge in terms of its impact on health, well-being, performance, you name it. And if Steph Curry's doing it,
it's not a bunch of BS.
No, like they showed there's some video I saw on Instagram. My algorithms are similar. That's the stuff that shows up my Instagram feeds all the time. But it showed different, high level athletes, all of them like in the heat of the battle,
doing it,
taking a moment to
it's like that self-talk video, a bunch of clips of athletes talking to themselves. It's like, it's not just just because.
But it's, when you're 15, 16, 17, I thought I knew everything and you couldn't tell me anything.
Sure.
Now, if it was
like
something,
you know nothing and people tell you everything.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that is the key. Keep a beginner's mind. But someone had to really prove it to me back then. And even like my son, he takes it's pitching instruction with a man named John Link. And John Link had a pitch for the Dodgers, and he was a scout for the Dodgers. And he's been there, and he's studied the heck out of pitching. My son listens to him. Like if he says do it, he's doing it, and which is awesome. Like I don't need or even want to be the voice. So I was the same. Like if there was someone, if I was wanting to learn how to something I could do with a squat or whatever, I'll drive across the state to hear what he has to say or whatever. But that goes back to that curiosity thing. Like I would strongly recommend developing that as
curious mindset
approach.
I think in this article they talked about, we think about athletes and performance as like the game. Clock starts, clock ends. Maybe it'll pregame, maybe it'll postgame stuff. But they mentioned in the article about just like the rigorous like travel schedule and not being in your own bed and not being in your own schedule and not being in your own time zone or with your family or whatever your normal, which I don't know what their normal looks like. That to me, that kind of, I mean, I don't view professional athletes as like non-humans, but I think for your average person, maybe it humanized them a little bit and also made this more relatable to someone who's listening who's not an athlete or a business person. They're just they're a parent and they are stressed out with getting kids from this sport to this and pick up at this time and early release and field day and teacher appreciation week this week. Ours is yours this week, by the way. To be able to like, if you're in that mode of like constant, go, check the list, do the things, make the appointment, get the kids this place, it can make this much more relatable to that lifestyle in the view of that being a performance in itself, not just I have to score points or I have to close this deal or I have to do this presentation. Like I think I said once before, in my mind, like everything we do in life is a performance of sorts.
Yep.
Like you're performing to be successful at being in a relationship, being a parent, being a friend, hosting a podcast. Like everything is some sort of performance that means something and that matters. And to me, sort of taking this out of just the sports performance, which we don't narrow ourselves to, but we talk about athletes a lot, obviously. That again, we reiterate, like this is not just for those people. Like it is literally for everyone.
Well, that
if you do things, this is for you.
That's the point of the article at
Yeah.
the end. It says, like, you don't have to be a world-class athlete
Right.
to do this or to reap the benefits of it.
Yeah.
It literally is for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's even how the article ends, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's where I was headed.
So, the unbound performance thing for sure, like, boom, max it out. Well, if you want to be the best you can be, then there are a lot of things that affect performance. And the breath meditation thing is definitely one, but going to where you are headed, like, it's not just confined to those kind of high-end performers at all.
The article ends, like any other skill, Martin maintains that mastering your breath requires technique, practice, and time. But unlike most skills possessed by professional athletes, this one is clearly fundamentally different. Anyone can do it.
Boom. Yep. I think Harvey Martin has a book, Breathe, Focus, Excel. He works with a lot of teams, individuals. He's got a podcast. Gotta
What's
look
his
it up.
name? Harvey
Martin.
Oh. His book is called Breathe, Focus, Excel.
Boom. I crushed it.
You got it.
And he's got a podcast, A Moment with Mart. Variety of different kinds of. He gets really deep into some of this breath stuff. It's more than I want to dive into it, but he's super interesting to listen to. And if he's willing to have like surgery on his palate to make sure his airways are open enough.
Impressive.
And,
You're
I'm not being critical, but
sure.
By any means, I hold him super high regard.
Yeah.
You can really dive deep into the breathing thing. I mean, really deep. And if you're trying to cultivate curiosity,
you
can do a lot worse than diving into that, for sure. So I don't know, it's a game changer. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unbound Performance Podcast.
Your support helps us continue to build our community. If you're enjoying this content, please like, subscribe, and share.